I tinker all the time with games, and it's one of my most enjoyable things to do. And at some point on the channel, I put together some videos about some of my tinkering. It was with the James Bond Assault game and the James Bond 007 role playing game together. And then after that, I put together a video called Easy Ways to Be Your Own GM. And you can see the link to that up there and below, where I tried to make some general points and categorize some of the aspects of things that I use when I put these games together. And that is something that those themes have been picked up in many videos in the channel, but I realized at some point that I don't necessarily, haven't necessarily put that all together explicitly in a video. And that's what I want to do here because I was playing around with this rule set Dungeon Plungin, and I mentioned this in my Geek Gamers update as something that I was going to treat, and here are the credits from the title page. I believe I downloaded this from BGG quite some time ago. I've had it for a really long time, not really looked at it too much. It is, at least the version that I have, even says at various points in it, this is a work in progress, there's more to be done, there's some contradictory rules, there's some things that are left out of it, but it's a pretty neat little basic system for creating a dungeon crawl, and a GM-less one at that. But as I started to bring it to the table, I was bringing in other things, and I thought this is a great opportunity to do a video where I show you a little bit of behind the scenes of how I put stuff together, what I think about, and how these components that you see here and that you'll see as I put this together into a game and kind of build it up into a little bit of a story and something that has RPG elements, how those are related to the general concepts that I talked about having generative resources, suggestive resources, restrictive resources, and a rubric, and putting that all together and putting it all together in the tropes and in the overall architecture of something that we call a dungeon crawl. That said, I'm not starting in a dungeon. I'm starting in a wilderness area. This was one of my just picking up various components from games that I have. I love this tile. I don't have a lot of outside tiles here, and I was also getting some characters that I have. I don't have a lot of minis. I haven't featured these in videos yet. One of the characters from the set has been in a video, but not the rest of them. Putting together a party of four. The Dungeon Plungin rules call for four people, four characters, whether you're playing as a soloist or with a group, you still need to run four characters. So I chose some basic, keeping it all very generic, but generic in the good sense. We have a thief, we have a wizard, we have a fighter and a ranger, and I have denoted the cards. The two magic users have this kind of bright green background, and these are the non-magic users. I won't go into too much detail about the rules per se as a rules overview, but you'll see how it works. But in essence, you're taking your stat, you're rolling that number of d6s, and you're getting a success on a 5 or a 6. That's the basic stat, and the same, it works the same on defense. I have some magic as mentioned here, and I also have my little notes here. It's a little unclear perhaps in video, but I have little notes here on what the spells are. But the thief, for example, can cast a spell to negate some damage for a companion, and can also buff up if he is using his unarmed fists to fight. He can buff himself up. And the wizard's magic, the wizard has air magic, and he can create a gust of wind to push back some monsters or even an ally. And there's a little detail on how that works. And he can also place a magical ward in place around another character who is within 5 squares of him for 1 round of combat. And then the ranger and the fighter are non-magic users, and the ranger is a ranged character. Obviously, he has dual shot. His ability is that he can divide his attack dice, which he rolls 5 of them, among 2 characters, so he could divide up the damage that he might get. And he's also got a healing potion. And then the fighter is a basic standard character, but he's rolling 6 attack dice, and his ability is kind of built into the fact that he has some extra attack dice. Those are my characters. Now, right now I have no story. I also have in the game rules, and obviously in the structures of the dungeon crawl, there are possibilities for doors, there are possibilities for monsters, there's possibilities for traps. I think what I'm going to do on this point is I have these D3s, and the way I'm going to roll or assess whether there are doors, traps, or monsters is I'm going to roll these D3s. I will assign one of them to be the number of elements in that room, and this is the check die. So if the two die numbers are different, the first one holds. If they are the same number, then there's nothing. So that basically provides a 33-ish% chance, a third chance that there is nothing, and then a 2/3 chance that there is something. So in this case, there would be nothing of whatever I was rolling for. So in this case, there would be 1 of whatever I was rolling for, and in this case, there would be 3 of whatever I was rolling for. I have another possibility of this die. I love this one, and a possibility is to assign it to this would be a monster, say this would be a trap, and if I rolled this, it could either be an event, an NPC, or nothing. I don't know. That's a possibility too. So I haven't really decided yet. These are just some of the game elements that I'm pulling in that I want to use. I set up to start just a situation where I am coming upon this exterior of what you can't see here, which is going to be the courtyard of a dungeon, of a something. I don't know. I'm going to get the something from my random tables here, and I'm going to start to get the story from some random tables here. Right now I have nothing in terms of a story, but I have my party, and they're going to see 2. I think this is going to be like I decided this is going to be a gremlin of some sort, and maybe that's the gremlin. I looked to the Dungeon Plungin bestiary that's here and tried to pull in some characters that I matched up roughly. So I think, yeah, a gremlin and an imp. We've got the gremlin and an imp guarding these things, whatever these are. These are little wooden stars that I have, so I put them down. They're going to be something, I don't know, we'll roll on that. They also have a fire pit. We're drawn to the fire pit. I just set this up again because it seemed appealing to me. So this is my first scene. Coming through here, we have, well, actually this got misaligned somewhere along the way. So the passageway in here is guarded by some, can't really see this, these are like living statues perhaps, I don't know. We're going to uncover this. I just threw down a few treasure chests. Probably wouldn't be so many treasure chests in the courtyard, but I've got a treasure chest, an unopened and an open one. So we'll probably build this up in some manner, but this is just how I'm starting. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to, well, first of all, just point out again, I will be using things from my solo RPG wallet. And if you've watched my channel, you've seen all of these before in some manner. So my general percentile table, which is kind of my favorite one, I think I'll use this. How far away is a thing may come into play, both in exterior and inside when we get inside. The weather, I don't think the weather's going to come into play, although some more of these likelihood tables. This roll d20 table I probably will use because I love the gradation here. Like, it's definitely very unlikely. That's the kind of thing that I would say. So I'll probably be using that, and maybe this d20 oracle table. So we'll be certainly going to this, but to start out, I've shown you my generic characters and I have no story. And as mentioned in many other videos, for me, one great way of starting a story, starting a relationship, understanding the interconnections, the interpersonal relationships among my characters is going to be by giving them some trinkets. So I have spoken many times about the importance of giving characters trinkets and the generative function of trinkets, that from something small you can get to something very large. And part of the reason why that happens is these are notes from something else I was doing, but I saw them when I opened it up to take some notes here. And this is a diagram of what I think is the foundation for an effective, and by effective I mean rich and deep and multi-narrative story, which is having some kind of environment with a hero in it, and you can see the interaction of those. And furthermore, your hero is going to have a history, and the history itself is going to link somehow with the environment in this manner. So the history here is going to be represented by these trinkets. And we're going to go, in this case, we're going to go to something I haven't really used that much except when I did the video on it, to take the tables. There's tables back here for, what does he call them? He has ancient loot tables, which is cool. We're not going to go to the ancient loot right now, but to characterize something as a trinket, I'm going to translate into his shabby loot table. So we're going to roll. These are D100 tables. It's all going to be just random. I'm not going to make an effort to assign something that is like, quote unquote, what a thief, for in this instance, might be carrying. It's random. Who knows how the thief got this? Ooh, I rolled a 2. Captain's rations. These are food and they are healing. Now, obviously, these stats here are going to be key to a different game than the game that I'm playing, but that doesn't really matter because we're using this thematically. So the thief here is carrying some rations that have some healing, and interestingly, in fact, the he already has a revival potion. He's got 2 bottles of it. So am I going to give him more revival potion? Not necessarily. I'm going to use this trinket to reinforce this concept of somehow I have a thief healer here. That's not necessarily a typical kind of trope, but the role on the trinket table is sending me further in that narrative direction. So I'm going to start to build up the thief as this type of healing character. Let's give it another roll. We've got the fighter up next, and we will go stick to those tables. 95. What we get for him on 95 is, let's see, a local map item. Glean all pertinent locations in a 25-mile radius. So our fighter is going to be somebody who, maybe he's the leader. I had already given him the lantern. We don't necessarily, quote unquote, need a lantern for these rules as far as I can tell, but I felt I needed to do that. I felt I needed to have someone with a lantern and a refill. He's carrying a mace, and apparently he has some kind of a map. He has some kind of a map to the area. So when I start to piece together why are they here, I put them in the initial location because it looked pretty from my game components. But now I'm taking these resources here and letting them, these are generative resources. They're sending me in the direction of a story. And so the map is telling me that the fighter is somehow the leader and possibly the reason that we're here. I don't know. We're going to figure that out together. 68 for the wizard. 68 for the wizard brings us to a gold chain. It is an item once worn by the wealthy, and it is worth this. So the wizard has something of value. Perhaps it is something of value in this palace that we are approaching. I showed you the external courtyard, and then I talked about a dungeon, but really it's the courtyard of a structure. Perhaps it is a palace. Perhaps we are here with, I don't know, maybe we're returning this to the palace, or maybe we've stolen it, but I don't know why we'd be going back if we stole it. Maybe there's a connection there. What I could do is I could now roll on some randomizer to determine, and this would be what I call restrictive resources. You could see how that would work. A yes, no, in essence, to tell me, yes, it's related, no, it's not. But I'm not going to go that directive just yet. I'm going to say maybe, and we're going to see how this fleshes out. Maybe what the ranger is carrying is going to give us a clue about that. The trinkets don't all obviously necessarily need to match up with each other, but sometimes they do. And in 91, well, here we have, this is the ranger. He's got a holy silver amulet. It's an item and has silver properties, and it is an inspiring symbol of the good in this world. So this is actually giving me some direction and telling me that the ranger is carrying something that is a symbol of good, and the wizard has something of value that may have come from this palace. The fighter has a map. We have been led here. Perhaps this is a mission of good. Perhaps we are here to, maybe we're here to rescue someone. Maybe this is a rescue the princess kind of mission. I don't know. And the thief, as we know, is a healer. So overall, I'm getting the concept of something good with this party, that they are here initially, at least, for a mission of positivity. Obviously, they're going to be having some obstacles along the way, or else we wouldn't have a story in these conventions. But they are here on a mission of good, and this something has brought them to this place. This map, this fighter is their leader, has brought them to this place. And yes, indeed, the wizard's amulet is connected here, as is the ranger, a symbol that they are here to do something positive. Now, I do want to discover something about the structure that my party is approaching, because I've got that transition between the exterior environment and there's like a stone courtyard or something. That plus the fact that we discovered a map, a local map that our fighter is carrying, tells me that they're approaching something more than just like a random ruin or something of insignificance. So the first thing that I'm going to go to here, looking in the table of contents here, what's striking me is the section on walls, because we're outside this thing. Now, I don't have a cool stone wall to put in my little diorama there, but we're going to envision that there is the courtyard itself, perhaps is surrounded by a wall or something like that. So we're going to go here and see the first table here, I believe, is just kind of some general information about the wall, and we'll give that a roll and see what we can learn about that. 22 says the wall is a patchwork of several different types of materials. These materials may be of the same type, such as multiple kinds of wood or stone. That didn't really tell us much, and indeed, actually, the little landscape cardboard thing I have would support that. So let's go to, there's further tables here. 32, damage from acidic corrosion dots the wall. Again, not giving us a whole lot, but perhaps the damage is suggesting a lack of care, or I always get excited when I roll below a 10. I rolled a 9 here. An iron grate covers this well. Oh, this is a well. Oh, I see. Wells, walls. I moved into wells. Well, there's a well. An iron grate covers this well. The central portion can be opened to access the water below. The iron is slightly rusted. Well, we got two things here. I thought there were more pages on walls, but apparently it went into wells. 2 pages here suggesting that there is some slight corrosion and maybe slight, I don't want to say decay, but here's our well. So we do have some kind of a well, and it is slightly rusted. And I've looked through my materials and come up with I guess this is going to be my little well tile. Now, it was an accident that I read, whoops, that I read well instead of wall because I was looking for a wall, but actually I don't have a wall here, so I don't even know necessarily why I was focusing on that. I do have a transition. I have put these things down just because I like both of these pieces of landscape or exteriority, whatever you want to call them. And as you know, I don't have a ton of this stuff, so I put down the ones that I liked, but it brings me to considering this as more of a theme, and it is a theme of transition, and clearly this is something that is constructed, it is built with purpose. This is not an accidental laying of stone here. So we're coming to something that is a specific structure. We're not going to just simply do this is not an underground dungeon full of wandering monsters with nothing on the outside. We're here from a map. It is obviously, because there's a map that's leading us here, something, at least enough part of the culture or the lore of the world to be constructed in some way. So we have a well. I guess we'll place the well in here. And I had set these up. I think they probably moved around because it's been a while since I set them up, but I just set this little thing up to start out these little guys, this imp here, and this is, I think, a gremlin is going to be guarding something. I don't know. They've got a fire. Maybe it's evening time. We see the fire. We're going to get to that. But before we get to that, I'm finding that I want to develop this story a little bit more, and the theme here of transition, of the outside to the inside, investigating a little bit more. This is clearly a courtyard. Forget the wall, because I don't even have a wall here. I had put these things down again just because they're pretty. Maybe they're not a wall. Maybe they're just little structures here. This was just pretty, so I put it down. That's all. And they put some random stairs here in the corner. The random stairs probably don't make a lot of sense, but whatever. And again, the living statue that we're going to pass through here in some way. I think I got to figure out how I have this set up. I don't think the entrance would be in the stream, but in any event, going to do a little more investigation here through some other books. We're going to go now to the Classic Dungeon Design Guide to see. I remember there's something in here about a manor or whatever. I want to see if I can learn a little more through some random tables about this structure that we're going to enter, perhaps where we're going to enter it, I don't know. And then we will move on to the gameplay. If you've stuck with this portion of the video so far, you're probably going to stick around for leading up to it. If you're anxious to get to the actual rolling of the dice and how we're going to, quote unquote, do the game part of it, you can move ahead to the timestamp that I've placed. All right, I'm not sure where this is going to take us, but we're going to go here in this book to the Manor House areas. There's two Manor House areas tables, and I'm going to roll and just see. I guess this is going to be kind of maybe where what's beyond that courtyard. I don't know. 82, a gambling hall. Don't like that. Let me go to his second table. 22, a museum. Okay, maybe I like that a little more. A museum. This is, let's see, what else can we get from this, if anything? All right, we're going to roll on the door table. And I should have probably done that first. 94. Let's see what kind of a door we get. An iron turnstile. An iron turnstile in a museum. Well, that actually fits together. But somehow I don't think we are in a tourist attraction here. Maybe we are. And let's just check on the prevailing light conditions. We've got near dark. Okay, so, well, that makes sense because we've got that fire pit, so it's perhaps dusk. And the air quality is going to be, there's some kind of smoke, or, well, I guess smoke from the fire pit would be what we've got there. And it is, the air is still, there's not much going on in terms of the atmosphere. Plants and minor life, 36, is going to give me mold. And let's see if we have any odors outside, 72, musk. So it's kind of, it's a little dank. It's a little dank. And let's see if we're hearing anything when we're out there. We're getting the sense 24, some sort of water dripping. Well, we know we're by a, that would be some sort of a river or something like that. So we're getting, that's the sense we're getting. The concept of this museum is going to lead me toward the magician's amulet, something to do, as I said earlier, perhaps with returning this. Perhaps they're on a mission of return, that they are coming here to return this thing that was stolen from this manor house, and they are going to be encountering some guards initially. And the last thing we'll check is what kind of door they might see there behind, beyond, in the beyond. 19, it's going to be a blocked door. All right, well, it is indeed a blocked door. At least the courtyard is blocked, and there is a well in the courtyard we may explore. The door itself is blocked in some manner, and when we get there, I guess we will see. Now, as this is a DIY video, I want to take a moment here to outline some of the themes that I see developing, and some of the things that I'm going to come back to periodically to hang the story on. Because a lot of the questions I get on the channel have to do with how you continue along, or what you do when you get stuck, when you start rolling on, say, an oracle table for a yes or no, and you just keep getting these answers that don't really make sense. And the reason I think sometimes things don't make sense is that themes have not been developed, so there's nothing to go back to. With all I've been rolling on here and piecing together, there are a number of themes that I feel are developing, and the biggest one perhaps is that theme of transition. As I mentioned, I just put down that exterior patch and the interior courtyard patch because I like them, but putting them together is a place of transition. It is kind of a stark difference between inside and outside, and indeed a courtyard itself is a transition between an inside and an outside. Then at one point, I rolled up the word museum. Now, a museum can also be thought of in some transitional way. It is taking artifacts or remnants of something that were scattered and bringing them together. It is making an active collection. It is codifying, perhaps, a history of a people or a place, taking what was existing all over the place and bringing it together. That is, the museum concept can be very deeply developed in all sorts of ways. And I also mentioned earlier, before I even got the museum, there was that amulet that the magician or the wizard has. This too can, and I probably will, develop this. From this amulet, a whole history could be rolled up in terms of what it is, where it came from, who it belongs to, how it got to the magician, and then, of course, leading back to why is it being either returned to a museum, or I don't get the sense that they stole this. Of course, why would they steal it and then be coming back to the museum? But why are they then bringing it back to the museum? And even what happened to it or with it when it was out in the wild? I mean, that could be a whole separate kind of backstory piece that could be played out. But it is these three words and these three concepts that I have rolled up that are going to be the themes of this story. They're going to be places where I can return to branch out from. And as such, they're going to be like anchor points in this story. And you'll see me at different times kind of going back to them and developing certain aspects of them. And whatever I develop will then be new little anchors or nodes, say, narrative nodes that can then branch further. And that's ultimately how you build a story that is rich enough to get you through, so that when you come to a place that seems to be a dead end, you actually have somewhere to return to go to get you out of that and to move forward and deeper into the story. We've assigned our trinkets to everybody. The thief has this backpack with some rations in it. He also is going to be represented by these black cubes. The wizard has the gold chain with the purple cubes. The fighter has this local map with the red cubes, and the ranger has the silver amulet with the green cubes. I'll be taking cubes representing each of my characters, putting these in a draw bag, and then as we go through, I will be assigning cube colors to any enemies that we encounter, placing those in a draw bag as well, and that way it's going to be, I'm going to randomize who gets to go when and sort of introduce at least a little bit of more strategy into the game rather than just an I go, you go kind of thing. So there'll be a little surprise, and actually maybe the opposite of strategy, but at least there'll be a little bit of surprise. So we've got that taken care of. And now, and the only other thing I'm going to show you is the die mechanic. I really can't actually remember whether I showed it to you before or not, but what I'm doing with the die mechanic is to place the number of enemies, the number of chests or encounters or whatever. I've decided I'm going to use these are D3s, and I'll roll them up with a check die. The blue number will be the amount unless I get a match, and if I get a match, it will be a 0. And this is just a regular D6. I don't know, it may come into play. So that said, we're going to see what happens here with our characters entering in. And I realize in my last description about, this is my draw bag, I'm going to place the character tokens, and then for my little, this is actually a water imp here and some kind of a gremlin. The water imp will be a blue cube, and the gremlin will be, I know the gremlin should be red, but the gremlin is going to be a yellow cube, and that is how we're going to figure out what's happening. The discussion earlier in terms of what we're trying to do, this return to the museum of something, went a little off course as I confused this is the gold chain of the wizard with the holy silver amulet from the ranger. We're actually trying to possibly return this gold chain. All right. So as we are going to draw here from our bag, and first up is the water imp. So the water imp this is our water imp here, and the water imp is spotting these guys. Now, imps traditionally are kind of low-level errand runners. They are not so much big fighting characters here. I chose the imp because I had stats. There's like a very limited group of monsters in the Dungeon Plungin rules, which, as you may recall, we're actually attempting to use. And I noticed, however, unfortunately, after setting this all up, there's an error in these rules because the imp description here is the gremlin description. It matches. So we don't have any imp description here. It does look as if the stats are different. So we have presumably the imp stats with our experience points and our gold and our life, the resistance, the magic, the attack, defense, etc. But the description is off. And an imp is not necessarily going to be a major attacker. It is going to be, however, a melee character. Its movement here is listed as 3. It's too far away to really do anything or get anywhere for us, and it would probably be more of a hiding character in any event. But so in that instance, what I'm going to do is go to some I didn't set up a monster reaction chart here, but based on what I know of imps, we are going to see what's the likelihood that it is going to come and attack us. I think we'll go to, I'm going to get just a yes or a no on this, just for simplicity's sake. Going to my preferred percentile table, and I'm going to say it's unlikely that it's going to come charging at us, but let's see if it actually does behave in that manner or not. And 98. So indeed, it's definitely not. It's going to sort of cower away, and perhaps it might even retreat or something like that. I think it probably is going to take its movement back to retreat back, and our response to that will be from, well, it might not be our response. Let's see. Purple is going to be our wizard. So our wizard is going to respond here. Now, the wizard, they are here again to deliver this gold chain, and our wizard character is this fellow right here. But he does have a firebolt, and the firebolt is the thing with the range of 8, and oh no, it says the range equals his magic stat, so I'm wrong again on there. His magic stat is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That magic bolt's not going to get there, but he can do a movement, actually. He can do 2 things. So he's going to move first. He's going to move his 3. 1, 2, 3, and then he is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Fair play. He's out of range. He's really out of range of this guy. I'm going to try to stick with the stats. Or rather the rules. I don't love that. Whoops. I don't love that, but as it stands, he can't quite get there with his magic wand. So all he's going to do right now is just move forward and kind of get ready. Not his magic wand, his firebolt. All he's going to do is stand there and get ready. Basically, that's going to represent his turn. And now we will draw up this is our ranger here, and he's got the bow and the dual shot. Dual shot is allowing him to target 2 at once, and his range on this bow, so the ranger has a bow, he's got a range of 8, he's got a movement of 4, he's going to move along here 1, 2, 3, 4, coming close to the wizard. He's going to turn, and within range he's going to be able to fire off that bow, and as mentioned, his ability allows him to assign hits to more than one character with his dual shot. So what he does is he takes his attack value, which is 5. He's rolling 5 attack dice, and for every 5 or 6 he gets, it is a hit, and he can assign those as he wishes. So he gets 2 hits here, and in fact, he is going to, let's see if they have any defense. We need to check on that because we don't know whether, so he got 2 hits off, or 2 arrows off, and now we need to check to see whether they can be deflected at all, and if so, whether we have dismissed with anyone. So per the stats on the monsters in the book, the imp has a defense of 3, the gremlin has, wow, a defense of 5, so that's going to not be enough to do anything, never mind. So he shoots off a bow in vain. These guys are wily, as you might expect them to be, and who goes next? The yellow is going to be our gremlin. Now, the gremlin is a little bit more aggressive. He's going to, per his stats, he's going to attack the nearest melee combatant. He has a movement of 3. Can he get through the water? 1, 2, 3. He cannot. I've decided that it costs 2 to get through this water. So he's going to just sort of rush into the stream and exposing himself. But that is, he's a little demon. So that's basically what he would do. He can't really sneak up as he wants to, but he's certainly not going to just sit there and do nothing. And then we've got left is our thief. Now the thief here, he has he's got this sword. He has, as you recall, a slight bit of magic. He's got this sword that allows him to use his magic value of 4 as an attack, but he's got to get there, and he's pretty, or she, I should say, is the farthest away, really. And I think the thief is not going to bother. She's going to just start to move into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think she's going to be trying to make her way into this castle. And here is the door. Never rearranged that. All right. So that's what the thief has done. And then the only actor left in this right now is our fighter. So the fighter is going to, let's see, again, he can't quite get there with this movement. The stream is really blocking them. So, but he's certainly going to try. 1, 2, 3. I think he's only got a movement of 4, but he has that big attack. There's just not much to really be done. He's got to just kind of try to get there. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fighter's going to be cowering behind our wizard as the first turn concludes. All right, I got the cubes back in the bag, and we'll just move on and we'll see what's going to happen next. And this is where the sort of mystery about what I get is going to... All right, we got the ranger. That was actually pretty good. The ranger is here, and the ranger can now move. He's got the 5 attack dice, and remember, he's got the dual shot. So he can move his 4... Cost 2. Is he going to stand in the stream and take a shot? He's going to stand in the stream and take a shot. I think he's going to do that. And he is within range for 5. Actually, he's... What was the range of that dual shot? Was it 8? Well, we'll have to check and we see what kind of shots he gets off. So the ranger runs forward, stops in the stream, draws back, and man, and he misses. Wow. I guess it doesn't matter what the range is if you miss. All right. Well, moving on. I can see this is a motley crew here. Nobody can do anything. All right. This is this gremlin, and the gremlin is here, and he's pretty pissed off that the ranger just took a shot at him, and his instruction is to go for I think he goes for the closest melee character per the rules. Now that he rolls 5 attack dice as well, and we'll see if he has better luck. So he kind of charges ahead. There's skirmish in the stream now, basically, and he rolls a strong 3 hits on our ranger. The ranger has a defense of 3, so in his defense, he's going to roll his 3d6 for, this is the ranger's defense roll now, and see how many he can thwart, and he can thwart 2. So he's going to get a hit though. He's going to get 1 hit, and his life point is going to go down from 6 to 5. I haven't got the wound tokens out yet, but I will remember that. So the ranger took a hit here, and now we're going to continue to proceed. We'll just remember that hit. And next up is the thief. So the thief is here. Now she's thinking about entering. She's kind of letting her friends deal with this gremlin imp situation here, and she doesn't really want any part of that. So she has going to proceed here into the doorway. Obviously it's a locked door. It's the front door to the castle here. And we're going to roll these d3s, and the blue is going to determine the difficulty of the door unless this was a match. So it's just a level 1 door. That's great, meaning it needs 1 success to pick the lock. And lock picking is a dexterity roll, and our thief she's got a dexterity of 4. So she just needs 1 success on these 4 here, which hopefully she will get. And wow, she did just get the 1. So she is going to pick the lock. And was she detected? And before we move on from the thief, a point I forgot to do, before she went to the courtyard door, she should have tried to detect whether it was trapped or not. And that's going to cause her a penalty. We need to determine now whether there's a trap. And if there is a trap, it's going to cause her a penalty on trying to disarm it. So the first thing is there a trap? There is. if it was a 1 or 2, there would not have been. There is a trap. We're going to come back and figure out what kind of trap it is when we get back to her, but we do need to remember that whatever trap it is, we have to add a +1 to the difficulty level. So that's unfortunate on her end. The other thing is, you'll see I gave the wound to the ranger. So now we are going to proceed with what's going on here. And who there is to act is our fighter. So our fighter is back here, and he's probably going to be able to move 1, 2, yeah. He's going to end up being able to attack this gremlin here at the edge of the stream, really. And for that, he's going to be able to roll his 6 attack dice and hopefully dispatch with the gremlin. The gremlin, they do have some defense, as we saw. He's got only 2 hits. I'm not really rolling too well on this, and I should probably, to speed things up, I should probably be rolling the defensive dice at the same time. Let me remind myself. Yeah, the gremlin's he's got 5 defensive dice, so that's not great. And he matches it. It's just a skirmish in the water there, and we're not able to do a whole lot. And unfortunately, all of this external activity is going to alert the monsters inside that we're here. And the wizard is up. Let's hope he can do something with his fireball. I think he doesn't even need to move. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He could even get the imp, but I think we want to try to get this gremlin out of the way. So he's going to be rolling also 5 dice. Same deal, actually. He's going to try to just cast this fireball, and wow, he's really, there we go. Finally. All right, so we successfully cast the fireball on the gremlin, and with that, it's actually a fire bolt. We do dispatch with this gremlin. By the way, so we get 5 experience points for that. I failed to write down our experience points for unlocking that door. You get 2 times the difficulty level for things like that. Unfortunately, it was a difficulty 1, so we got 2 experience points there. We're going to pick up 5 experience points for the gremlin. It's a group experience, so we need, per the rules, 200 experience to level up as the group. And this is how I'm playing. It's 50 points of experience per character, but there's an option to treat it as a group experience, which is what I'm doing. So it minimizes the bookkeeping on that. And also, I just want to level everyone up together. It makes more sense. So I'll note down off camera that we are running at 7 experience right now. And next up, I think there's only this imp left, right? Yeah, only the imp left here to go. And this guy is, well, he does, as said, he's given that he would come forward aggressively, which doesn't really make sense to me, but he will move with his 3 movement points back, 1, 2, 3. That is really all he can do because he can't reach anybody, and he's just standing there by the fire pit. Sorry that I did all that, not realizing. There we go. Moved him up. He's standing there by the firing pit cowering. Now, this brings me to a few points on the game here, on the rubric that I'm using, these rules of Dungeon Plungin' that are not fully fleshed out. Just before I started filming, I realized somebody posted to the BGG forum like yet another revision to these rules that is picking up rules slightly different than these. And I'm noticing as I go through these, there's even more contradiction. There's some different rules in the new thing that was posted, although frankly, the new thing that was posted looks slightly more organized to me than what I'm using. In any case, whether it's the new thing or whether it's this thing, if you look a little beyond the surface of what's here, you will find that as for example, the case of the imp, that there may be some discrepancies between what is in the rules and what you understand to be classic behavior of monsters and such. This guy, by the way, just, he appeared between takes magically. He may be somewhere, but he's not right there. Anyway, point being that the explicitly somewhat, as I mentioned in the beginning, what I'm using is, I don't think they use the word playtest, but in development, and there is now something posted online that is perhaps more solidified than what I'm working with here. I'm following as best I can. Looking at this little imp here, we're going to clearly, ultimately, he's going to meet his demise. So I may do that off camera. Really what we have to deal with here now is our thief, who foolishly just rushed forward, and this was my own forgetting, rushed forward, failed to attempt to see whether or not the door was trapped. We have determined that it is trapped, and now I'm going to go to my book of traps, and we're going to devise what the possibilities for the traps could be. Before we get to devising the trap, I want to reorient us. The rest of the party dispensed with that imp and found a little bit of gold that the gremlin and the imp were hiding around the ashes of that campfire, and they gained some experience doing that. They made their way through. They didn't detect anything else here. The thief is still kind of at the ready, basically, to figure out what trap has been sprung and then how they're going to deal with it. So I've moved them forward and I've reoriented the visuals here. So we're now looking at our party facing this open door. Along with monsters and treasure, traps are part of the holy trinity of dungeon crawls. But in a way, they're also among the least developed in terms of references and lore. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in dungeon traps, this book. I've shown this in other videos before. To get our trap here, there's really two ways of doing it. We're going to roll just on the D100 traps overall first to see what we get on that. We rolled a 9 and a 9 there. This is an alphabetical list. Well, this actually is pretty accurate. It's an alarm. That makes sense. It beckons monsters. It has a lethality of 1 to 10. Now, this is scaled to a different rule set, but we're going to adapt it to ours, and I'll show you how we do that. This alarm causes a nearby monster type to come and investigate. The monster that investigates will not necessarily be the monster that set the alarm trap. Okay. So the other point here I was going to make in the back of the book is the lethality level here is a level 0 trap. In this reference is really just, it doesn't really inflict damage. It's an atmospheric trigger trap which scare or cause mildly threatening situations but do not harm. It says recommended for dungeons explored by characters of experience levels 1 and up. For my purposes here, we're as you recall here, we're entering right now a museum, not a dungeon per se. And I know some of you may say, hey, this is called the Dungeon Crawl DIY. Well, all of this is a dungeon crawl, really adventuring, and there's going to be a dungeon. I feel it. In any case, we're entering a museum. It's probably not a highly guarded or trapped thing. So I think the experience level nil is appropriate, and or experience level 1 in terms of our characters here being level 1 characters. We set an alarm. We weren't able to detect that alarm. So how many monsters is it going to call upon us here? It is going to call upon us no monsters. No monsters. Wow, we really lucked out. All right, so no monsters. So the alarm, I guess the alarm failed. The alarm failed. The alarm failed, and we're going to be moving into the courtyard here. Now, I did call these living statues. These are really looking back, looking into the rules. These are some stone golems here. The question is, can we sneak past them, and or what is their awareness? There is a monster awareness rule in the rubric I'm using. It is a little bit slightly, as is a bunch of the stuff, incomplete because it is level, there's 4 or 5 different levels of awareness, but no indication of how you're supposed to determine the role there, because one of those 5 is unaware. So let me show you that. Here's the monster awareness chart, and it says that if we add +1 to the roll if there was combat in an adjacent room, which of course we will say that we did have. So they're not going to be sleeping, I guess, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not clear to me how to adjust this rolling, but I'm going to just roll a d4, and we're going to say there's an equal chance that they're going to be any one of these. Let's get our d4 out and see these stone golems. There's 2 of them. Are they going to be, what is their state going to be? 1, 2, 3. They are going to be alert. The monster with the highest wits must make a wits check, add a +1 if there was combat in an adjacent tile. Well, there wasn't, although the trap went off. So the trap is calling other monsters, but then no. Well, I'm going to say yes. There was the trap went off. That's going to count there. So let's check the stone golems have the same wits. So they're going to do a wits check, and as against the hero with the lowest dex in the adjacent tile. Well, there's really only one adjacent. So she has triggered the trap. She has walked into the room. So we're going to have an opposing roll, the wits against the dexterity, to see, and the monsters are going to get a +1 because we triggered that trap. All right, it's an even match. I keep calling it a stone golem. It's really a stone gargoyle. That's the closest translation to a monster there. The gargoyles got a wits of 4, but they get the +1. So they're going to be rolling 5 dice. They're going to be the black dice. And then the thief's dexterity is only 4. So there we go. And let's see what, give this a roll and see what happens. So we are, yeah, we lost that one. The thief lost that one, and as such, if they are coming to life, they are going to get an extra turn as if we were ambushed. So they're going to basically be at the ready. They're going to act first, and they're just gonna spring to life, and they're going to attack my thief. So as such, the stone golem is going to attack the stone golem. I guess they're going to both attack her. I don't. This isn't going to be good. Or the gargoyle. The gargoyle on the left is going to attack my thief first, and see. And the thief's defense is 3. She doesn't have. Well, she does have that revival potion. She may need to use that. All right. So the gargoyle on the left springs to life and just gets off 1 attack. She can't defend that, so she gets a wound, and her life at this point is, she started out with 5, so she's going to be taking this wound down to 4. And then the gargoyle on the right, again, we can't do anything. The magician who's back there can't cast his healing or his magical ward to protect her. And this isn't great. This is not great. The gargoyle on the right does 2 unopposed damages. So now she has a total of 3 damage. See that there, mark her 3. So she's down to 2 life. And now we can go back to the draw bag to see who's going to go next, how this is going to actually go. I will assign cubes to the gargoyles and hope that somebody from our party can go first, because we need to possibly help her and see if we can take them out. All right, I've got everything in the draw bag. I've got the gargoyles marked, so we will hope for the best in terms of who comes next. And oh, great. the gargoyle is going to come back at her, and there's really nothing she can do because she doesn't have an action. This is just the way that it went because they had ambush. So we got this. Let's see. She's rolling. It's evenly matched. This is on to the thief again, and nope, she actually is rolling that. Get this organized here. One more hit. She's taking one more hit. She's just like clinging to life. She's got 1 health point left now because she's got 4 damage off of her 5 life. And if we draw this other gargoyle, she's done for, really. We did not. All right. We drew the wizard. So let me consider off camera what I can do here. He does have this magic ward. It's kind of a case of too little too late, maybe, because he's going to have to cast it on her. He's got 2 actions. He's going to have to cast it on her in case or when this gargoyle comes in. So let me consider this and come back. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I don't think this wizard can do. His choices are really he could take an action and cast a magic ward on the thief, which will give her a +1 defense through his next turn. And he probably has to do that because she only has 1 health left. Now, she does have a healing potion, but if she doesn't get a chance to use the healing potion, that's, it doesn't matter that she has it. And she only has a defense of 3. So for his first action, he could do that. The problem is for his second action, he could use his sword to attempt an attack, but he's too far away. So he's either going to I think he's just going to have to move and attack. I think actually that's what he's going to have to do. I think he's going to forego giving her that extra defense die, hope that they can take out these golems. I think he's going to have to risk that, actually. So scratch that. He's not going to do the ward. He's going to move. His movement is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can move right here. And we're not really doing facing in this. That was an optional rule, but I didn't really do that. So he's he's going to turn and face the golem, the gargoyle. I'm sorry, I keep calling it a golem. The gargoyle with his magic wand. I think I called it a mana sword. I'm confusing the two. He will be able to strike using his magic value, which is 5, and the defense, unfortunately, of the gargoyle is going to be a 6. So we are going to be rolling our, let's see, this will be our magician striking, and the defensive dice are coming in at 6. I don't think I have, is this one. All right, so I think we'll roll them separately here. So let's see what we do as the magician rolls his wand. We're just not rolling that well. He does potentially land 2 hits on this gargoyle. Now, the gargoyle actually only has 1 life. It's just they have a lot of defense is the problem. So, and there we go. They defended against both of those hits. So that is a wash. So that gargoyle is still here. And now the wizard is done, and the thief has no additional help. So if we draw a gargoyle here, that's not going to be great. We did not. We drew the ranger. So the ranger is back here. The ranger can attempt, well, actually the ranger can come in, I think, and attempt, can't shoot through, the thief is here. I think the ranger can't shoot through the thief here. So the ranger is going to, now the ranger has dual shot, so can divide up the shots. But I think to be fair, we're going to have to move into this room here and then do our dual shot. We have 5 attack dice that we're rolling. So let's give that a roll before we deal with the defense, because we're going to possibly divide these up. Maybe not, because they're so defended. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're still trying to take something out. We got 2 hits. I think we're going to not reassign those, and we will see what that orange golem here on the left, if we can possibly, and we can. So successfully, finally, we can take out one of these gargoyles, and living statue, gargoyle, whatever. that's causing us some grief, and that is the ranger's turn. All right, who do we have left here? It's going to either be the gargoyle or the fighter. It's the only one who's left, and it is the fighter. So the fighter is the only one now not inside. He's got the 6 attack dice. He's got that mace, which is giving him the extra 1. He's going to move in, and he is going to try to strike that gargoyle with his mace, rolling 6 attack dice. And again, this is going to be 6 against 6. So let's see. We just need to come up with one hit here, and well, I should say one hit that goes through. We're just not rolling great. So we got 2 successes, and now let us hope that we can get rid of that gargoyle, and we did not. So the gargoyle defended against that, and now the gargoyle is going to attack, and it's going to go for, so we'll just pull that out. Obviously, that's the only thing left in there. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose our thief because the gargoyle is going to go for the weakest link here, which is the thief right next to it. So it will be rolling its 4 attack dice, and the thief only can defend against with 3 because there's no additional for the magic ward. And yeah, unfortunately, oh no, wow. Did I move that? No, I have to go back and check. I think that was a 4. So yes, by the skin of her teeth, she's hanging on to 1 life point, and I'm going to tell you, she's not so happy with the wizard for not choosing to give her a magic ward. And what we're going to do is everything's going back in the bag, including, so we're going to put back, these are the gargoyles. That, well, actually, we only have the 1 gargoyle. We lost 1, so not that one. This gargoyle and our party is going back in the bag. If we don't pull that gargoyle, I think we're going to be okay. If we pull the gargoyle first, I don't think the thief's going to get out of this again. So let's see what we get. And unfortunately, we did pull the gargoyle. So as luck would have it, we pulled the gargoyle. We got to do it coming at her again, and she's overmatched, and she doesn't have that magic ward. So let's see. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, it was just 1 that went through, but that's it. She only has the 1 life point left, and she, well, you know what? 3, 4, no, she only has 1 life point left. So she's going to die. She's going to die here in the courtyard holding a revival potion as well as 2 refills of it, but she just never got a chance to fill it up. She didn't have the magic ward. Who knows if the magic ward would have helped, but we have lost the thief coming into the courtyard here, and, you know, our party is just going to sort of turn and console each other, but really we all know whose fault that was. So moving on, we are down a party member, and she will drop her stuff there. We could possibly get that. We will talk about that later, or just forego doing that as the video is somewhat long. Now it's the wizard's turn. Well, you know what? It's too late. It's sort of too little too late for the wizard, but let's see if he can take out this gargoyle here with his rolling of his 5 dice, and we will see, whoops, see if we can. Nobody's happy at this point. And we were just not rolling great. Not rolling great. That was a failed roll. And we can, let's see, we can attack again. We can make that our second action. We don't have to move anywhere, but there we go. We got 1 hit. So we did take out this gargoyle. Again, a little too late. We've lost someone in our party. And now we're going to move toward the well here. And when we get to the well, I think you know what happens when we get inside the well. Yes, of course, this is what happens. Underneath the well, our party finds itself face to face with the dungeon underneath the museum. And this would be the start of the rest of their adventure. And it's a party of 3 at this point. So That is a look inside how to begin solo RPGing, a little solo RPG DIY. I may do the second part of it, which will focus on the dungeon crawl. That was what I originally had anticipated with this video, but in order to really start and get the story going, I wanted to allow the game components that I selected to the suggestive resources that I selected to guide me, and that created a bit of a story in combination with the random trinkets that I gave them. We had this concept of, we never really got to this concept of returning this gold chain here. Now, given what happened, given the basically the error in the magician's choice of actions, this is something that can be a narrative hook and can be something that would continue on in the story as something now that is part of the interrelationship among these characters. And there is an emotion and a feeling, there is perhaps a sense of betrayal, a sense of loss in the party now. And we talked earlier in the video about these different themes of transition, of this museum, of this notion of return, the amulet being something that is of good that they are attempting to do. And we have further theme of transition between life and death with the loss of the thief. And looking again at the thief's card here, reminding ourselves they were carrying the rations, and we would have picked those up and we would have taken those with us if we could do so and move on. Perhaps leaving the thief's body there. Perhaps that would be a place of return. Perhaps that would be the end of our journey, the successful end to this story. But right now, where they would be going is underneath this well and ending up in this maze, in this dungeon, to continue on their story.